Snohomish people and their successors, the Palawa tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and their voices to form a more just and equitable society. All right. People of the agenda, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Did you mean 505?
Hear just a little bit of feedback on my every time I talk.
Did you mean
Um,
505?
All right, board action E, salary schedules for school and district administrators, 2024-2025 school year. Presented by Dr. Courtney Hill, Executive Director of Equity and Family Engagement.
Good evening, everyone. Get back to you. Okay, all right, cool. That is much better, sorry. All right, so I'm here to present the salary schedule for school and district administrators for the coming school year. The salary schedules for the school and district level administrators are being resubmitted for board consideration following the July 22nd, 2024 regular session board meeting. The schedules for school and district level administrators include the implicit price deflator, IPD, state cost of living increase of 3.7%. However, the district level administrators 2024 school year contracts include 9 unpaid furlough days, equating to no salary increase for the year. Employee salaries are factored into the general fund budget.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the salary schedules for school and district administrators for the 2024-2025 school year.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I guess just a comment. I appreciate the additional information of including both the 9 unpaid school or unpaid days for administrators and also the information that the salary schedule was factored in as part of the budgeting process for this coming year. I think that's helpful.
Thank you.
Comments? No.
On there?
No comment.
Yeah, I second what Kristen was saying. The additional information is helpful. I know this was originally presented to us. We didn't have that information initially. So it's no. All right, there's no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Days out. All right. Number 2, professional technical group exempt salary schedule revision.
For the year 2023-2024, this is presented by Bonnie Walker, Executive Director of Secondary Education.
Hello, School Board and Superintendent Robbins. I'm here to present to you a revised salary schedule for the professional technical group. And this is being resubmitted from the July 22nd regular session board meeting. The professional technical group schedule is submitted for revision, and it now includes a child nutrition manager on the schedule. This meets OSPI requirements that we were not able to meet with our current configuration. This does not include a salary increase from the IPD that will be presented to you later in September when their contract has rolled.
All right, thank you for that. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the salary schedule for revision to the professional technical group schedule to include the child nutrition manager position.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion?
Any questions?
I will say, just to kind of reiterate, so this salary schedule that's up for approval is to satisfy a corrective action that the district has. Is that correct?
We need to reconfigure our new child nutrition services because of the OSPI has been tightening down some expectations following COVID and all the procedures. And so some of those go around training and evaluation of employees. It needs to be an employee of the district. And so we need to be careful not to have our contracted services doing that. So we need to fit that within our structures that we have here in the district for that work.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions? Discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we're gonna get into action F, which is interviews for the Board of Director District 4. I'm gonna read off this thing here. Candidate interviews for the district Director Area 4 will be held in person, individually in the boardroom. The interviews are open to the public to witness. There will be an opportunity to provide written feedback on each candidate during each interview. No verbal comments from the public on the candidates will be permitted. For those viewing online, an electronic feedback form will be provided for each candidate. So just to reiterate this, we are going to be conducting an interview process for 4 different candidates. And so it is my ask of you and the audience that you be respectful of that. Obviously, we welcome you being here to observe this process. But we would ask that, if there's any comments, that you keep them to yourself, because we want to respect the candidates who are going to be interviewing tonight. So without further ado, candidates to be interviewed, I see the first candidate is Austin Inho Ha. I think I said that right. Austin Ha. And I think he's being grabbed right now. Hello, Austin. It's good to see you. So I believe you have your list of questions right there, the questions that we're going to ask you. So how this process is going to work is we've got a few questions that we're going to ask. Each of the board members will have an opportunity to ask one of those questions. And then all of those questions will be the same questions that every candidate is asked, right? So we won't ask you any different question than we're going to ask another candidate. So do you have any questions before we begin?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. Looks like Beth, you have the first question.
Hello.
I
Briefly describe your background as it relates to your appointment as a Marysville School Board Director, District Board Director, including any prior service on a board or commission.
Yeah, I'll keep it as brief as I can. My story starts here in Marysville. Went here all through K through 12. I started off at Quilceda Tulalip, ended up transferring over to Pinewood for the HiCap program when I was in 3rd grade. Ended up going over to 10th Street for my middle school years, and then to the International School of Communications at MGHS for my high school years. During that period, I got very involved in the idea of educational advocacy. And so my first experience in kind of the idea of the philosophy and the thoughts behind education was in that period in my high school years. There was a little group that we called Rediscover. We thought we were really clever. We had the ISC highlighted in the Rediscover part of that. And that was during the period that we got to see the Dream Big for Kids event, which brought the community together and it made us think about the future for the strategic plan for the Marysville School District. And the group that we put together with me and my friends, we were lucky enough to be invited there and learned a ton about the breadth of the community and the diversity of the community. and ultimately had the privilege to present in front of that crowd and talk to local state senator and generally get our sort of energy for kind of the future of what my advocacy would be when it comes to education. Unfortunately, following that, I was in my final years of high school at the time. That's when the shooting happened, and it felt like that's derailed a lot of what happened in the Marysville School District when it came to that strategic plan, because the reality was that we had to face a very traumatic event that both brought the community together and brought up a lot of turmoil about what had happened. And through those two events into college, I went to the University of Washington, kind of looking for a purpose and a future for myself. My major was in computer science, which was kind of an accident. I ended up falling in love with it there while I was going to the UW. And in just about every elective class that I could take, I was taking educational philosophy classes, educational equity classes, and all sorts of things behind the scenes to try and fill out my interest in that advocacy, kind of spurred by the Dream Big event. During that period also, I was drawn to some of the bright leaders that we have in our community, like Jim Strickland, who was working on raising the importance of student-centered education in our community. And he brought some folks together. I got wind of it and went with one of those buddies from those Rediscover days. And that kind of snowballed. Local community members as a community of practice, including teachers, students, business leaders, board members, you name it, basically. We did that consistently for, I think, 5 to 7 years, even after I graduated college. I was part of that board during that time, to speak to the question. And we helped kind of found that as a nonprofit, doing all the paperwork with the state, setting up board policies, setting up board positions, and kind of going through the motions of governing something that was relatively small, but meaningful to us in this community. Ultimately, after that, I graduated college and I ended up going into the industry. It was my opportunity to jump into the computer science industry. But I was lucky enough to stumble upon a Teach for America advocate at one of our career fairs at the UW. And they really persuaded me to take a couple of years in AmeriCorps and serve the communities that needed it the most, teaching in schools that were in deep need. And so I was very lucky to be selected for that program. They placed me in New York, flew me out there, housed me for a summer to give me some intensive training to try and get me up to the speed in a non-traditional pathway. And then eventually I taught high school math in the South Bronx for 2 years. My first year there was relatively normal for a first-year teacher, which is to say hectic, chaotic. You're learning a lot, absorbing a lot. And then the second year, COVID hit, or I guess the end of the first year, COVID hit. And so it was kind of that for a second time. I think that effectively brings us up to now. I spent a year subbing as well, but that is my background as it relates to education and my kind of commitment to the advocacy of for public schools.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I've got the next question. Any question that I read was sent to me from the community.
Oh,
just so you
great.
know. So it's a community question. What do you see as the most significant challenges facing the Marysville School District, and how would you address them as a member of the school board?
To answer that, just to start in a little bit of a different way, I think that there are many things that the district can work to address. Public school is constantly a fight of trying to figure out what the right way to spend limited resources are in the way that makes most sense for students and our kids. Education, in my eyes, is the process of practicing freedom, liberation, and empowerment. And it's the bedrock of a democracy. And that starts with our community. The unfortunate thing that Marysville has faced is a lot of turmoil, just to be blunt about it. And I think that begins with a lack of trust. And so if I were going to answer a large question with a sort of big, broad answer, it begins with trust. And in terms of addressing that, that comes down to the actual acts that are involved in that day-to-day, instead of the generality of just saying that you need to build trust. A big portion of that is making sure that you do your role as a board member, right? Really, you sit as the liaison between the superintendent and the district administration as a whole and the community. And your job is to put the right people in place in order to make sure that the district is set up for success and to achieve its strategic goals and ultimately have success for the kids in our district. When it comes to things that I've specifically heard talking to folks over the last couple of weeks after applying, a big piece of that comes down to the willingness of the district to be vulnerable and transparent where it makes sense. It's a word that is talked a lot about in Marysville and has been talked about a lot about in Marysville for as long as I can remember, as long as I've been going to these board meetings. And I think that it has to begin with the district being willing to be vulnerable about things that are not the prettiest day to day, frankly. I think the district does a ton right. A school, like I said before, a school district is always a process of a fight to figure out the right way to balance resources such that we're meeting the kids where they're at and that the kids get what they need. And so communicating when those resources are stretched too thin, or when there's a difficult change that has to happen in relation to staffing, or a difficult change that needs to happen as it relates to the strategic plan. As is relevant now, a difficult change that needs to happen as it relates to the schools themselves, the actual physical schools themselves. Being upfront about that and being out and visible in the public is a big piece of building that trust early. And that would be something that I think is important in addressing that as the thing that I see as one of the biggest issues we face.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, back to you.
What kind of relationship should a school board have with its community?
Yeah, I know I touched on this a little bit, but I'll try and highlight it again. The first part of that in my mind is to acknowledge the position that the board actually holds, like what our role is in the community, right? And again, I think on one side you have the community, and on the other side you have the district as a whole, but in particular district administration, right? And your job is to be the conduit and some of the thinking around that to represent what the community desires. The only way that you can represent the community is by being out there, right? And so when it comes to the relationship that a board member needs to have with their community, it begins by being present. It begins by knowing exactly what is happening in the schools. And to go back to the idea of trust, I think it comes down to knowing the right ways and the effective ways to think about accountability. Just to expand on that a little bit more. When it comes to accountability, it can be kind of a scary word, and actually certain types of accountability can reduce trust in certain groups and cause issues in culture sometimes. But the right types of accountability allow you to foster relationships first in the schools and communicate with the community exactly what is going on in the schools, why it's going on, and whether or not we are on track based off of the goals we've set as a group. And so when it comes down to it, the relationship that a board member has with their community starts with understanding what is truly happening in the schools, then understanding why it happens, and then explaining those two things to the community, and then completing the circle by receiving feedback and closing the loop.
Thank you very much. All right, another one of my questions. Will you please share examples from your prior leadership experience where you successfully influenced decisions and shifted mindsets?
I was kind of thinking through a couple of examples beforehand. I think the best example to give is a personal one as it relates to my teaching experience. One of the issues that I faced as a teacher, as a kind of a green teacher going into these schools and trying to learn what it meant as someone who went through a non-traditional pathway, was to figure out the right mix of understanding what existing structures were there from the state to the school district, to the school, sometimes up to the federal level, right? But of course, then down to the student, and what it is that I thought the students truly needed, as you know, the person most directly in contact with them. To be specific about that, I struggled at the beginning to understand what the right grading system was and what the right curriculum was for my students as I was kind of teaching geometry in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. A lot of my students frankly, did not have the background necessary in order to achieve the standards that we needed to, as I expected going into the beginning of the year. The South Bronx is the poorest congressional district in the United States. And I had to come to terms with the fact that I was entering a community that I did not know a lot about, and I did not know the struggles of early on. My instinct eventually became that I should talk with my teacher team. I was fortunate to have a very caring, thoughtful, understanding group of teachers that were in the math department there at my school. And they told me a lot about what it is that I needed to do in order to connect with these kids in a way that was authentic to them and authentic to me, and start with their engagement first and work my way up to a level at which we were achieving what was expected of them by the state and by the school. A big piece of that for me was my background there in college, in actually even high school. I had a lot of teachers that sort of challenged traditional methods of grading, thinking about the ways that we best reflect students' achievements in the classroom, while also making sure that they're in compliance with the standards that are expected by our community and our state and our country. And so, knowing that that was the case, I started to think about what grading practices I wanted to have in my classroom. I sort of had a traditional sort of grade book before, separated by like attendance and assignments and homework and tests, given points throughout the year out of 100 all the way up, averaged out. Over time, I found that it didn't feel like that was truly authentic to the way that the students were learning. And so I went for a grade book that was standards aligned directly. Instead of direct assignments in the grade book, if you were to imagine looking at a spreadsheet with all of those cells representing an assignment, each cell represented a grade, and I assessed those students based off of the language of the standard as their work exemplified it. After testing it for a little bit and not feeling frankly super confident at that time, especially as someone who was new, I brought it to my teacher team and I worked to try and change their mind about the grading process. And fortunately at the time, they were looking into thinking about ways of grading. At the time, I think they had looked into process-based grading. They had looked into other things about having grading minimums and things like that. And ultimately, they were pretty persuaded by my practice of the actual thing that I had done to research around that new grading practice, those standards-based grades. Unfortunately, that was when COVID hit. And so it was just about the worst time for it to happen. At that point, there was way too much that needed to change. And so that was set back, at least in my classroom, for, I would say the next 5 or 6 months. But come my final semester or marking period of teaching over there in New York, I was able to re-implement it again and also kind of align it with a new curriculum that was centered around a method called 3-act math. I won't get in, I will spare you the details of what 3-act math is. Suffice to say, it's centered around real world problems, is based in media that's engaging with students, and asks students to meet the real world with the math that it represents. And I wish, frankly, my biggest regret is that I didn't start doing that sooner, that I didn't stay strong to my convictions early on. But I'm proud to say that, eventually I did implement it and that it was a positive impact on the students by the time I left that school.
Thank you very much. Kristen.
Hi, Austin. Describe your vision for public education in the Marysville School District. What would that look like for a student attending Marysville schools?
Hi, Kristen. This is a hard one to answer because it is different for every child, frankly. And I think in reality, everybody has perfect way of thinking, and we all come from our own experiences. But the realities of that aren't always manifest, right? I can tell you that the through line of my educational advocacy is always been centered around student-centered education. And that's because I was extremely privileged in this school district to be in very niche programs year to year to year, where all of my classes were student-centered. I had teachers who were extremely attuned to my needs and my aspirations, who knew what I liked, who were connected to my family, who made space for the community to step in, who exposed me to culture and the world. And that was true from elementary on up through high school. Going back to that Rediscover group that I was a part of in high school, just kind of getting my wings, trying to, learn about education and what it takes to run a district. That group was focused on sharing the ideals of that school with the broader community, the things that we thought were best practices that we had experienced in that school with other schools that maybe had not been exposed to it or didn't have the supports or the privileges that our school did. And so when I think about a vision for this school district, it starts with that student-centered big idea and is manifest through those specific interactions that students have with their teachers. And importantly, I think over time, as we gain that trust of the community, also folds them in as well. One thing, I guess it was a year or so ago, year and a half ago, I was working at one of the local elementary schools volunteering. And I was talking with the principal there, and I was asking, what are the things that are most missing right now at this elementary school, right? And they told me, we've got great talent in the teachers. We frankly have very good curriculum as well. The thing that feels most missing are things like parent engagement and community engagement and involvement by the community at large. It really got me thinking about it a lot. And one of the things that stood out to me was that by doing that, you're doing some of that trust building inherently, because what happens in our classrooms in this district, I mean, you drop in and there's amazing things happening constantly. And so that visibility is a piece of it as well. Not only the support that the teachers get when they have the support of parents and community members and other folks coming into their classroom. But in the broader picture, to answer the question again, it comes back to the idea of that student-centered education. And my hope is that I can share some of the things that worked for me, because I can only speak from my experience, and some of the things that I've seen work for my students and for other teachers who've had success with their students.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also have the next question. What two things do you see as areas of improvement for us as a district? And how can we build systems or structures to overcome them? Explain how we would know when we have achieved success.
When I saw this one out in the hallway, I was thinking this is like a multi-part DBQ question from my AP history class or something like that. I'll try and take it piece by piece. Two things that I think of as areas of improvement for the district, I think are one I've already articulated, which is the communication and trust building, which I see as hand-in-hand pieces of that. The second one, which I'll talk about more in a bit, is understanding the way that the structures of the state affect the school district. I know it's a little jargony and nuanced there, but I'll try and dive into it. And I think that they're related to one another. When it comes to the communication, the way that you overcome that is what I talked about before. You have to be out in the community, and you have to understand what's actually happening in the schools, right? This position, right, is a position of power, but that means that it also comes with that responsibility of understanding what truly is going on, right? Now, the level of involvement there, of course, varies depending on your perspective about what a board's role is in a community. But from my mind, you can't have an understanding of how to improve your schools if you don't know what the kids are experiencing, right? A piece of that for me is, again, that through line, elevating kids' voices and students' voices in our school district. One of the most important experiences I had when I was here was being given true power in my school. Participating in a school government where we actually got to make real changes, both in culture and its structure, understanding how to build things like a constitution and a government that functioned in a way that operated in a way that met other students' needs in the way that it made sense. Another profound experience was as a part of that educational nonprofit, Ascend, getting to see students' voices elevated and students really take on a life of their own in terms of their understanding what the school district is. In 2020, I believe, or several years ago, when the last election was around for the school board, and we got to have students ask questions and hold a town hall for future board members as well. It was, I mean, that was incredible to see. And that was sort of, it felt like a full circle moment for me as a student who got to experience that in my school, but also as someone who got, as a community member who got to see the future generation do that for their school district as a whole as well. In order to know how you achieve success with communication, there's not a clear answer always, right? It's something that you know when you see it, right? It's something that you understand when you feel it, right? And it's not something that's earned quickly. It's something that's earned slowly. So I don't know that I can answer that question directly. I would hope that what we would see is long-term results of improvement for our students in the metrics that we are already measuring and ones that we aren't yet. But it's a hard one to answer. And to give the other side of things that is a little more jargony, a little more technical, part of overcoming the structures is discarding your preconceived notions of what you think the structures are saying is necessary and really understanding what actually is required of you. There are tons of experts in this district who have dedicated their lives to this craft and understanding of what is necessary in order to educate a child to their best. But those best practices are always changing and everybody's always learning and there's always new information. A piece of that is what feels overbearing sometimes, which is the requirements that feel as if they come from above. I go back to my experience in that curriculum building and that reconception of my grading practices. And I think about that regret that I had. And the regret came from the dogma that I had about that, the things that I thought were being asked of me, even though they weren't, right? And so part of building the trust with the community and part of building the trust within the district and the culture of the district should unlock doors that were previously closed because of things like fear maybe that people have experienced or these ideas about what expectations are of them, which maybe aren't even there in the first place. And again, it's a hard one to know exactly when you've reached that goal, frankly. But I really do think a lot of our current metrics are pretty good at measuring those things as a lagging indicator of they're doing the right things. If you're doing the right things at the top of the line, the bottom line always follows. And so knowing exactly when to decide whether those things are working is hard because learning takes a long time. It always does, right? And that is the job that we're in right here. So.
Thank you very much. Eliza's finishing up her stuff over here and then she'll ask you the next question.
Hello, Austin.
Hi.
What motivates you to want to become a board member? What do you think is expected of you as an individual board member and as a member of the board of directors?
In some ways, I hope by this point, it's clear what motivates me. Ultimately, it's the kids, right? Partially, it's because I started out as one of those kids, right? And I know the way that the structures affected me. I also know a lot has changed since I've been out of this school district. Like I said, I've been chatting with a lot of community members over the last week and a half here. People who I look up to as mentors, people I know are leaders in the community, people, frankly, that I just admire. And I was looking for their advice and their counsel, basically. And I never had to bring that up with any of them. They all independently brought up that we need to do the right thing for the kids. Now, when I think about my story as well, I realize that I'm one of those people too. I also am motivated by the kids. And so when I think about what's expected of me, there are the things that are written down, which are, like I described, your position between the community and the administration of the schools. But then there's the mushier, touchier, feelier things that are more like the stuff that I've been talking about, the understanding that kids are being educated to be democratic members of our society. I mean, frankly, it's a little selfish, right? I hope that my fellow citizen is as informed as I am, because I think we are all trying to navigate this together, right? And if they are not, if our schools are not doing that job, then we're kind of left to hoping. When I submitted my application, I talked a little bit about that too. And I think that frankly, the kind of the major crises in this district and the ones I've experienced in my educational career are a big piece of that too. Seeing what has happened in terms of mental health and frankly experiencing, being a student while the shooting happened, and being a teacher while COVID happened. And actually when I was a first grader, having the strike going, the major strike going on during that period, there's a lot for me to absorb there. And my hope is that, our future kids don't have to go through those things, and I know that it's not an easy job. Like I said, it's in some ways it feels impossible some days. I mean, just as someone who taught in a classroom, but regardless, no matter what story I tell, no matter the answer I give, I just always feel drawn back to elevating student voices and making sure that they are visible and centered in our decision making in the community.
Explain your understanding of what it means to be a high functioning board and give an example of what that would look like to you.
A high functioning board builds relationships. I'm starting to probably sound like a broken record at this point, but that is what they do first and foremost. You're a representative, right? You have power because you feel that you can represent your community and that you can manifest that community's desires into a reality in the schools, which again, I believe are the bedrock of our community and our democracy. So a high functioning board first looks like one that is present in the schools, present in the community, and knows when to delegate and when to take control. It's one that sets a clear vision and articulates that vision, and oftentimes makes hard decisions about what needs to attend to at any given moment in time. It's also the high functioning board also does a lot of work around explaining those hard decisions to the people that they're representing. One of the things that is difficult as any leader is explaining the thinking and capturing kind of the lightning in a bottle or the sentiment of a community or the reality of a situation when what expectations are don't meet reality. And so my hope is that, as a board member and as a board, that the Marysville School District will really have a focus on being, again, present in the schools, understanding that accountability starts with empathy and understanding of what's going on in the classrooms, and our consistent communication back to the community, capped off by that loop being closed and making it a two-way street, understanding how to represent your constituents.
Very much, Austin.
Thank you.
Turn this on so other folks can hear me online. That is the end of our questions. Thanks for coming in, and I'm not sure what the process is after this, when you're expected to hear next from Marysville. But I would assume Jane or Jody will reach out to you.
Great, thank you.
Next steps, stuff like that. So feel free to keep the water. It's yours.
You don't think the next person wants it?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin.
Board members. Are y'all ready for the next, or do you need a few minutes? All right, our next candidate will be Amy Hill. Hello, Amy.
How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for being here. You
Absolutely.
see in front of you, and I think you might have gotten a chance to see when you were out there, but those are lists of questions that we're going to ask you.
Okay,
That way, if you need to refer back to the question, you have it in front of you.
easy enough.
All of the board members have a set of questions, I think, two each, that we're gonna ask you. And just so you know ahead of time, the questions that I ask are questions from the community.
Cool.
So if you get a question from me, it's a question from the community.
I love it.
And I think Beth starts us off.
I do. Hi.
Hi.
Briefly describe your background as it relates to your appointment as a Marysville School District Board of Director, including any prior service on a board or commission.
I would say my background is in the city of Marysville. I've been a resident here for 28 years. I have 2 children that graduated from Marysville School District. I've done PTA council, all that good stuff when it came to the kiddos during the district. I guess that's my background is mom, community member, stakeholder.
Thank you.
There's folks on Zoom who need to hear us too. All right. What do you see as the most significant challenges facing the Marysville School District, and how would you address them as a member of the school board?
I think you say challenges. I'll start with, I think the main challenge right now is communication. Communication to the stakeholders in the district. Addressing that is easy. Communicate. Obviously, we have other challenges, financials. That's being dealt with through SPI. So I guess me addressing it personally would just be listening to OSPI and doing as their guidelines say and depict. But again, I think the most significant challenge right now here in the Marysville School District really is communication and transparency.
Thank you. I have the next question. What kind of relationship should a school board have with its community?
I think a school board should be open, welcoming, and always ready to chat. Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, the 5 seats up there are really representations of the community. So unless you have your thumb and know what's going on in the community and chatting with them, you're not going to be a very good board member.
Thank you.
I believe I have the next question. Let me just finish this
You're
thought
okay.
on that last question, and then I'll come to you.
I'm not going anywhere.
Alrighty. Please share examples from your prior leadership experience where you successfully influenced decisions and shifted mindsets.
I pondered this one. This is the only question that I pondered out there. And I could tell you, corporate life, managing employees and doing that. But I think honestly, my biggest leadership role has been mom and successfully influencing my kids into successful adults and allowing them to have their own mindset in the world. I think that's my biggest achievement.
I'm ready whenever you want to ask.
Hi, Amy. Hi. I have the next two. Describe your vision for public education in the Marysville School District. What would it look like for a student attending Marysville schools?
So I think this one's pretty easy. Create and have successful, sorry, as my purse falls over, successful students, graduation rates up, teachers with all the tools in their toolbox that they need in order to create the successful students. It has to, the vision of public education has to rotate around the students, nothing else. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, give the teachers what they need, but the students have to be number one.
Okay, we ready for the second one? Okay. I'm ready. What two things do you see as areas of improvement for us as a district, and how can we build systems or structures to overcome them? Explain how we would know when we have achieved success.
So I think the first thing would be, again, I'm going to harp on this one, is communications and building in policies that set a precedence on how the school district communicates to its stakeholders and holding the employees accountable to that, to just ensure that that communication is going to everyone in the community. A second thing, I would say the second thing would be areas of improvement. Structure. I had a second one in my head. Sorry, I kind of segued. A second thing would definitely be how the district. Oh, there's a couple. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. You know, here's a good one. With that communication comes transparency, right? And you build in structures and you bring that along. How would you know you have success? A stakeholder here in Marysville told me when he has his board meetings and the entire room is completely empty, he knows he's done his job for those 2 weeks. And that is something that resonated in me that said, that makes sense, because think about it. When this boardroom is completely full, it's not full of happy people. It just never is. And in the 28 years I've been at this, that's been consistent, right? Yeah. That would be successful.
Hello, Amy.
Hi.
What motivates you to want to become a board member? And what do you think is expected of you as an individual board member and as a member of the board of directors?
Life has motivated me to become a board member. I'm an empty nest now and recently looking for purpose. And obviously I have been active inside this room and helping with Marysville Coalition, right? But honestly, having 2 kids that are now out of the house and not spending half my life being a mom every single day, I need a purpose. And this came along and it's something that is very near and dear to my heart. So I thought, why not? What do you think is expected of you? Time, especially right now. Let's all be honest, at the end of the day, lots of time. Lots of communicating with stakeholders, communicating with board members, sharing the honest truth. And yeah, lots of time. And honestly, I have that time. My job is very open scheduled, to say the least.
Explain your understanding of what it means to be a high functioning board and give an example of what that would look like to you.
Interpret this a couple ways, but I'll go with the generic. High functioning board would mean that the oversight of the district is happening, that the board's functions are being held to standards that are allowing a smooth district wide. And that means, let's be honest, when it's smooth at the board, it's smooth in administration, it's smooth at teachers level, it's smooth so that the kids and the students feel it. I think that's what a high functioning board is. An example of what it would look like, a high functioning board would mean that this room would probably be empty and answers and questions and communications would be handled on a daily basis that allows the stakeholders in the community to know exactly what's going on behind that diocese and not have to question it.
I'm just wrapping up here. I appreciate you being here and answering these questions.
Absolutely.
I think next steps, you'll hear from, keep that water if you want, it's yours. And
Parting gift.
but other than that, that's all the questions we had for you today.
Awesome. Do I need to leave or can I stay for the rest? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you've already heard the questions, so you
Oh,
can,
yeah.
you can stay for the other two.
Thank
Yeah,
you, guys.
of course.
Thank you.
All right. The next. 5:35. All right, we got about 10 minutes until the next person. I think Greg might be going to get him right now. Okay. We got, hey, board members, we got about 10 minutes until the next,
Use the restroom.
yeah, if you need to use the restroom.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll take a break.
Thank you.
You go, girl.
Stand up and stretch your legs, you can do that. Next person being interviewed is Craig Harris, 5:35. it here in about 30 seconds. So again, when the candidate does arrive and we're asking questions, I would just ask that you don't have any background chatter, so we can respect our candidates and their answers. Obviously, when somebody is in for an interview and there's a whole audience behind them and a audience in front of them, it can be a little daunting. But yeah, I would just ask that you respect the candidate while they're answering questions. I think we're gonna get started here in no time. Again, our next candidate is Craig Harris. Hey, Craig. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for everybody here coming too. Thanks for being here, taking your time.
So I'm sure you got a chance to see the questions a little bit out there.
Just, yeah, briefly, yeah.
Right in front of you are the same questions we're gonna ask. So if you need to refer back to the questions, you have them there in front of you. Each board member will have 2 questions that we ask you. And I'll just start off by saying that any question I ask you is actually a question that I got from the community. So it's a community question,
Oh, okay.
not a Connor question.
All right.
So we'll go ahead and get started. Beth, start us off.
Hello. Briefly describe your background as it relates to your appointment as the Marysville School District Board of Director, including any prior service on a board or commission.
Okay. Most of my adult life has been spent in education. I was a teacher in Marysville for nearly 30 years, a coach, was a McKinney-Vento liaison, have been involved in education pretty much my whole life. As far as boards and things that, you know, within school, I was on site team. I was a department head. I was a member when we had a health committee in Marysville. I was a member of the health committee. I was a MEA representative. I was on MEA exec board, and have been involved on and off at various capacities through the various levies, you know, from just phone calls, phone banks, putting up signs, those sort of things. So mostly coming at this as a background of somebody who's spent a lot of time in education and has maybe some perspectives that aren't really represented yet on the board. That, you know, I'm not here as kind of like a plant by the teachers or anything like that, but having somebody, you know, we have a district where teachers are feeling beat up, teachers are feeling demoralized. It might be good to have somebody on the board who they feel that they can talk to, who understands where they're coming from, and who, you know, they don't have to worry about retribution for speaking their true mind. So that's.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. Second question is from me, well, the community. What do you see as the most significant challenges facing the Marysville School District, and how would you address them as a member of the school board?
I think the larger problem is that I think the public has kind of lost confidence in the schools, that they don't have a whole lot of faith in what we're doing. They don't really believe that we are making decisions that are the best decisions that can be made. Obviously, the financial problems that we were having, the legal problems we're having, the complaints with special education, those sort of issues. People don't feel like they're being heard, and I don't think people feel like these issues are being addressed. As a member of the school board, I would, you know, I'm from the adage that, you know, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should be listening twice as much as you're talking. And so you need to get out, you need to be out there, you need to be with the public, you need to listen to their concerns. You need to not just, oh yeah, thanks, great, thanks for sharing, and then go on and do whatever you feel like. People support what they help to create. And so we need to get buy-in from our community to say that, yeah, we're in this together. You know, people need to look at education as a partnership where we all put together. It's not just a consumer who's taking some product. You know, it's a process that we need to be involved in. We need to be inclusive. We need to be respectful of other opinions. We don't need to necessarily disagree, but if you have an idea or if you make a decision, you need to be willing to explain that. In the classroom, it was always like, you know, show your work, show what you know, how do you do that? So I think that as a board, we need to model that as well. How did you come to that? And it doesn't mean you have to agree, but at least respectfully, if you disagree respectfully. It's become so polarized and personal, and it's got to stop. People are just being so negative, and there's got to be a better way. We've got to find some common ground. There's got to be a way where everybody can, maybe not everybody can win, but not everybody feel like they're always losing. That's a big difference, I think.
Thank you. What kind of relationship should a school board have with its community?
Realize that you are a servant leader, that it's not a political position. Politics should have no part in the school board. You are here to represent people, listen to their concerns, and do the best you can for them. And if they disagree with you, listen. Maybe there's a good reason. Maybe there's a viewpoint that you haven't considered. You need to be open to different viewpoints. You need to be open to different ways of thinking. And then when you get all the facts, go ahead and make the best decisions that you can. You should be willing to listen to all sorts of groups that are out there. I mean, coming from where I am now as a senior, that's a question. How do you, people on a fixed income who really don't have any skin in the game, but are still paying taxes, or still voting, how do you get them to buy in and support you? That's a huge group that is underutilized and ignored. And so make everybody feel like they're included, not just people that have kids that are in school, but people that are all community. You've got to realize that a healthy school district means a healthy community. It's all tied together. It's not one thing over here, one thing over here, one thing over here. It's got to be a cohesive effort where everybody benefits and everybody is bought into it. We got to pull together again. These little fractions that that going on here and stuff, factions and interest groups and stuff. It just needs to be, we need to say what we're here for kids. We got to all agree that yes, we're here for kids. You got to go into it assuming positive intent with people, that they're here for the right reason, and that it's not just because I got all wound up because I watched too much Fox News or something like that. It's got to be people that are committed to a community as a whole. I mean, I'm an old guy, but I'm still a Marysville kid right to the core. I grew up here. You can take the kid out of Marysville, but you can't take Marysville out of the kid. And so I see this and I get it makes me kind of fired up that what is happening? I get tired of people coming up and asking me, what is wrong with Marysville? When they should be saying, gosh, listen to what's right about Marysville. And I'd like to change the narrative that way. That would be my goal.
Thank you.
All right. Please share examples from your prior leadership experience where you successfully influenced decisions and shifted mindsets.
Wow. Well, one thing that came to mind, I was one of the 4 teachers that originally started 10th Street School. When we started 10th Street School, there was a lot of pushback against that. Oh, you're going to skim the cream of the crop. You're going to take all the good kids and you're going to take them, and it's going to be so easy for you guys. And what's going to happen to the rest of us? And there was a lot of blowback against that. There was also a lot of blowback against what was known then as performance-based education, that show what you know kind of thing. And we were able to go ahead and say, look, here's what this is all about. We want kids to be able to demonstrate what they know. And it happened that 2 of the 4 teachers were music teachers, and there's no way that you can fake whether you've practiced your horn or you know the song or whatever. And so let's take that idea and bring that across curriculum to all the disciplines, to math and to English and to social studies and those sort of things. And so we were able to convince teachers that no, we were not just trying to skim the good kids and take off and get out of the system, that we're trying to give another opportunity for kids that wasn't being met at the middle school. We tried some things like school within a school. It was a disaster, to be honest. It did not work at all because we didn't really think it through. So we learned from our mistakes and we tried to do that. So I think the fact that 10th Street is still around and is still regarded as fairly successful speaks to that, you know, we were able to change the, you know, the thinking of people about what we were doing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hi.
Describe the vision for public education in the Marysville School District, and what would that look like for students?
I think that it would be above everything, safety, that kids feel safe, that kids feel respected, that kids feel loved, that they feel like they matter, that they feel like everybody is pulling for them in the right direction. A student attending Marysville schools should get the best education that they can as they shouldn't be their facilities. I mean, I know it's tough with the money and stuff, but we shouldn't have secondary facilities. I mean, coming as being a track coach at MMS. I mean, you're out having us kids run kids on a track that you wouldn't walk your dog on. You know, there needs to be support for teachers because, you know, like it or not, the success of the kid is based on a lot on the teacher. And if you have people that are feeling run down and demoralized and stuff, that's going to bleed over into the classroom. You know, kids, you can't fake it with kids. They know if you're honest or not. They know if you're happy or not. They know if you're motivated or not. And when the teacher drags themselves in, then it's just, there's no way that they can have success in a classroom. We need to be high standards. We need to have accountability, and it needs to be, again, a partnership. It's not just you drop your kid off. Okay, teacher, now it's your job. You teach him and now give him back. I mean, it needs to be parent, teacher, student, all working together for the success. You got to have buy-in that way. So many times parents don't want to come into school because the only time they hear from the school is when their kid has a problem. You know, if only time I heard from somebody is when they had a problem with me or were upset with me or I did something wrong, I wouldn't want to be around either. We need to have kids feel like they're successful. We need to have them prepared for the future. We need to have them feeling that they are competent and capable and are able to, you know, be ready. I mean, you know, engage, inspire, prepare. Are those really ideals, or are those just words on a wall that we kind of, oh, that looks nice? You know, what are we all about? You know, we need to prepare these kids for a future. We need to inspire these kids to want to learn. They need to be lifelong learners. We need to have that growth mindset where they can go in and know that, you know, I don't have it today, but I will get it. I will achieve. I can get this if I just put the effort into it. So that's, I think, a very important thing that, you know, it's with kids. Sure.
Thanks, do you see? Just realized my mic was off. Sorry about that. What two things do you see as areas of improvement for us as a district, and how can we build systems or structures to overcome them? Explain how we would know when we have achieved success.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You know, improvement, obviously, from the feedback I've been getting, people feel that there's a lack of transparency and people feel that there is poor communication. Now, whether that is perception or reality, I don't know. But people, again, are feeling a disconnect. People are feeling that the district is not listening to them, is not meeting their needs. And so we need to change that. How you know you achieve success is when, you know, the feedback you get from people, you hear, you know, whether when people are happy, and you hear when they're, I'm sure that you guys all hear when they're unhappy. And so getting some positive feedback, getting some things, you know, having an article in the paper that doesn't talk about the problems of the Marysville School District for one time, my God, that would be wonderful to say, here's something good that happened in Marysville this week, rather than here's somebody who quit, or here's, you know, financial problems, or here's another lawsuit, or here's whatever going on. It needs to be you know, a structure to overcome these things. It's outreach. We need to get out there. That's one thing that I've got going for me, is that I'm retired. I'll go to your class during the day. I'll meet you after school. I'll go to things. I can be out there. I'm willing to go out and talk to the people, listen to the people and see what is the real complaint? And maybe there's a common theme, maybe there's not. Maybe it's, it's so easy for people just to complain. It's so easy to play the blame game. It's this person's fault, or it's that person's fault, or if we just got rid of them, or if we just did this, and that's really not productive. I would like to be in a system where we looked for solutions rather than always searched for excuses. And I think that from a problem solving aspect, I think I'm pretty strong that way. Let's look at some different options and see what works, and if option A doesn't work, let's try B. If B doesn't work, let's try C. Let's keep going until we find something. Just don't throw up our hands and say, this is impossible, we're never going to do it, and be done with it. That's not how we should roll.
Good afternoon. What motivates you to want to become a board member? What do you think is expected of you as an individual board member and as a member of the board of directors?
Well, what motivates me to be a board member is this kind of the situation that we're in right now. And I think that I bring a lot of different things that could help with at least helping find solutions. Having been a teacher, I understand their frustrations, but I also understand that there's a lot of people in the district that aren't feeling like they're being recognized or listened to, that there's, the support staff that's just kind of ignored, that the people that are working hard. I mean, I've been around, I know that how, maintenance guys going out there trying to fix 50-year-old boilers literally with duct tape and baling wire to try to keep things running because you can't get parts for your things. The challenges that are out there are large, but they're solvable. I'm motivated because I care about my community. I've invested time in this community. I know the people that are in the classrooms. I know how hard they work. I know the effort that people put in here. I know that the most important person in your school building is your school secretary, and probably the second most important person is your custodian. And they're ignored. We don't seem to care about those people. All this, that it's there's the community itself that we need to bring in, but we also need to take care of the people that are working. And when you lose the room, you're headed down a bad path. People need to be prideful that I work for Marysville, whether I'm a bus driver, whether I'm a lunch lady, whether I'm a para, whether I'm a custodian, whether I'm a counselor, whether I'm a teacher, whether I'm a administrator or a board member. I need to have some pride. We need to have people say, look at what's going good with Marysville. Like I said, we need to find a way to change that narrative from the negative spiral we've been going down and get people thinking about, okay, well, let's focus on what we have going right and let's find something good and let's build on that. Let's build on something else. Let's do something else to do that. And let success breed success breed success. As a board member, I'm expected to be a good steward of public funds, to make decisions that are based on the best outcomes for students and their families, to take the whole community into consideration, not just the kids that are actively involved in schools. Although we're here for kids, that's our main focus, and we should not ever forget that. My job is to be available, to listen to people. Sometimes people don't feel like they're being heard. And so you need to have somebody that, like I said, that could listen, that the people can talk to without fear of any repercussions or retaliation because they disagree or with what you're thinking. And to represent the community and the school as the best way I can, through honesty and integrity, and through hard work, and through modeling the behavior that we want to see from everybody else.
Thank you. Explain your understanding of what it means to be a high-functioning board and give an example of what that would look like to you.
Well, it would be a group that deals in ideas versus personalities, who deals with, respect and integrity, people who don't try to ignore problems or slough them off and hope that they'll go away, that meet things head on, that are willing to listen to concerns of our constituents and what is important to them, um, what they feel is important. A high functioning board means that we are able to disagree respectfully, and hopefully through consensus come to the best solution that we can come up with. That we're willing to own our mistakes. You're going to make decisions and not everybody is going to just agree with your decisions. So explaining, being transparent, and saying, okay, here's what we did and here's why we did it. Here's what is going on and here's the reason why. I realize that in some cases there are, legal things that, you can't give details for particular reasons, but anything else, I mean, it's public record. We should be willing to own it. It means showing up. I don't, and again, remembering that we're representing this community. I disagree. I do not think that this is a toxic community. I do not think that the people here are, want to see us fail. I think that, that's just, I don't see that. That's not true. I think that schools need to be the hub of the community. I know that there's going to be some emotional things coming up here with the closing of, or the potential closings of Cascade and Liberty and Totem. There's going to be some real tough dialogue that comes on. And as somebody who started his school career as a little kindergartner at Cascade, who played basketball in that tiny little gym at Liberty, who went to high school at Totem when it was Marysville High School, I understand that there's a visceral connection with people to their schools. And so that's going to be a real tough conversation that we have coming up here that's going to be dealing with that. I've seen lately that there's confusion as to, is there going to be an athletic director or is there not going to be an athletic director? So as somebody who's a coach who's worked closely with our last two athletic directors, Greg Erickson and Rocky, who are tremendous guys, maybe having some involvement there, understanding that those decisions could be beneficial. Maybe it does. I don't know. Like I said, I know enough to know that there's a lot I don't know, and so I wanted to again look at people with assume positive intention, and try to be part of the solution as opposed to creating more problems. A high functioning board is a group of people that people know that even if they make some wrong decisions, sometimes that their hearts are in the right place, that you're here for the right reason and that you're here to, that we're all here for kids above and beyond anything else. We're here for kids.
All right, thank you, Craig.
Yeah.
I believe that is the last question.
Okay.
You can take that water home with you if you'd like.
That's okay.
And I think
We're tight. We are keep it. We're on a
Okay.
budget here. So,
all right. I believe next steps, you'll hear from either Jane or Jody as far as
all right.
what to expect next. Feel free, since you've already answered your questions and heard the questions, if you'd like to stick around for the last one, you can. Still a public meeting.
Yeah.
If not,
I know. Yeah, my grandson's waiting for me at home. So
Oh, yeah.
I may head out. I'm
absolutely. All
gassed. Toddlers. Oh my gosh.
right, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next interview is going to be at 6 o'clock, which is in just a few minutes. And I have on the list Charles Shaw. Although I thought it was Clarence. I think this might be a typo. I think it's Clarence Shaw.
Why did we ask the same questions? Like, this is a duplicate question.
Which one was?
Like, this question is one that they had already answered and then we added it in here. Yeah.
I think, the other questions are like WASDA, typical WASDA questions. for
These?
school board. Yeah,
Mm.
so, and only two of the questions that we're asking.
Okay, so this is-
All right, we're bringing in our next interviewee, Mr. Clarence Shaw. Hey, Clarence. Of course. Thank you for joining us tonight. So we have a list of questions that we're going to ask. I believe each board member will ask 2 questions.
Okay.
And just so you know, any question that I ask is a question that was generated from the community. So they aren't my questions, they'll be the community's questions.
All right.
So do you have any questions before we start?
No.
All
Oh,
right.
I do want one thing before I get started. I'd like to thank and recognize Mrs. Gibson for all of the efforts that she put forth in terms of getting this thing scheduled. So thank you very much, Ms. Gibson.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. President.
All right, Beth, start us off, please.
Hello. Briefly describe your background as it relates to your appointment as a Marysville School District Board of Director, including any prior service on a board or commission.
Thank you, Beth. So I do come with 4 years of school board experience where I served in Southern California, Monrovia School Board from 2004, I think, through 2008. I want to point out a couple of significant accomplishments that we as a team did. First thing is we changed our motto because we were a moderate school and we wanted to move into that top tier bracket. We changed the motto to world-class schools, and that's the trajectory that we wanted to go on in. Secondly, we passed our bond measure by 66%. We had the community, 66%. And then thirdly, we increased numbers across the board. Enrollment, standardized test scores, and graduation rates. So those are a few accomplishments on my term there on that board. So I do come with board experience. Secondly, my current involvement, I wish I can look all around, but I can't. I look forward here. But my involvement with the community, I want to highlight 3. The first one is the Snohomish County Black Heritage Committee. It's the premier, besides the NAACP, it's a premier Black organization in Snohomish County. Reason I want to highlight this organization, a few years ago, our budget was $18,000. Right now, we're sitting at almost $500,000. And we do some wonderful things. You know, we do the MLK every year at Presbyterian in Everett, downtown Everett, and we do the Nubian Jam we just did this weekend. It's been going on like 30 years. The second organization I want to highlight is the Snohomish County Health District, the Equity Advisory Committee that I was selected to participate on back in 19, I think it predates COVID. And the reason why I want to bring this one up is we did a lot of great work in terms of making sure that COVID vaccine was equally distributed. And it basically, you know, was equity at its best, I think. And I'm still on that organization. And this committee has really taken a lead with LA County in terms of equity, you know, hiring, policy, et cetera. And so I'm very proud of the work that that team is doing. And then the third organization is the Snohomish County Aging Council. Very, very, very good organization, very organized, very formal, very good at advocacy, and very good at seeing that programs for seniors are delivered in a manner that seniors should need them, if I can say it like that. But you get a chance to see the good spectrum of advocacy and programs and the execution and delivery of those services. Then the other point I want to draw is I've been in this community 12 years. I'm a homeowner. I know a lot. I got a pulse on the community. I go way back in the days when Mel Sheldon, when a lot of money was coming in to the school district across there. All the issues that have come up, all the accommodation, the commotions. I've been involved some way or another, either having a stepchild in the cafeteria doing time, or with the issue that recently developed with here in Marysville. So my community involvement is wide, I would kind of say that. So I think that I'll stop there.
All right, thank you very much. I've got the next question here. What do you see as the most significant challenges facing the Marysville School District, and how would you address them as a member of the school board?
So the fiscal piece, I think, is the most challenging. And I kind of see it like this: if I drop a map, attendance got to go up because we're losing right there. I think that's the quickest way to draw in funds, attendance. At the school district I was in, what we did was we incentivized a program where if the principals got attendance up, we shared some of that money with those sites. We didn't keep all those funds. And that program worked well, and they did get attendance up, thereby allowing us to get academic achievements up. Most significant, I would say attendance. I say secondly, the day that you guys appoint me, if you appoint me, that's the day that I start working on the levy. Because I think the levy is the most 50 plus one we have to get at this time. That's very, very, very pressing. The upcoming budget, we need 3 consecutive budgets with surpluses so we can change the ratings, right? On Moody's Wall Street, because right now ratings are not very well, but 3 consecutive budget surpluses will allow us to move up in our ratings, because guess what? After we approve the levy, probably about 2 years, it's just me, probably about 2 years, you're going to drop a bond because we need to get the facilities up, right? And so if we got good ratings, now we can get favorable interest rates. Makes sense to me. But anyway, we got to start working on that now. The challenges, I think, I'm a proponent of morale, culture building, etc. I know it's down a little bit, but as a team, let's get it back together, because we have the greatest resource, and that's our staff and our people right here. So I think, the challenge is changing culture, getting positive culture, working on it over and over and over, So those are some of the things that I see. Oh, challenges. We don't have a community. We got to get the community. Pardon me. Because if you show me student success in any city, I'll show you a community that's behind it. So we got to get the community on our side. Where was I going with that? Local merchants. A lot of our local merchants are graduates, and they'll be happy to contribute. But I see that that's a void, the local merchants. I think if you go to any city, any city that's got a good school district, there's a triangle. There's a triangle, and that triangle, this is municipal government talk. That triangle at the top is schools. On the bottom left-hand corner is city government. On the right-hand corner is business and community. When you have that triangle working, schools, city government, business and community, school districts are working. And that's what we need to fall into, that triangle, and start making some good cooperative agreements, perhaps with the city council, with the tribe, etc. So, okay, I'll stop there with challenges.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What kind of relationship should a school board have with its community?
We should be the premier ambassadors. we should be out. We should be at functions, at events, at coffees. We should be an extension. Because if you look at every school district again, you look across the nation, they're funded up until this point. There's a gap, right? We all know there's a gap, right? That gap is normally filled by who? The community. What kind of relationship? We should have a very good, and I think that, that's the challenge that we start building on. There's a lot of good folks out here that want to help out. I mean, we got alumni that we need to touch bases with alumni so they can knock on the doors of all their families here in Marysville to get this levy passed. But anyway, I think I'll stop there because I only got 20 minutes tonight.
All right, I've got the next one here. Please share examples from your prior leadership experience where you successfully influenced decisions and shifted mindsets.
I'm gonna kind of stay on culture a little bit, if you will, because that's very important. It's a passion of mine. I've served as a reservist 25 years, and I came back from Iraq, and some of the soldiers were on cell phones. I think it was, I don't know what year it was, 25, whenever the Iraqi war was, when I was with the first unit that went out, a lot on cell phones, and it was, I mean, I didn't understand it. It wasn't that uses of cell phone wasn't that popular back then. But it bothers me because cell phones, you could easily call your friend and tell them when the drug test is coming because they're supposed to be confidential and et cetera. But I had to step in and put a halt to that. It's an unpopular decision, but it was a decision I had to make to get my unit back. So that's an example. I'm gonna shift real quickly over to school district. When we were on the school board in Monrovia, we addressed some changes to student dress codes. Pretty hard, but we did think so because we had visited campuses and you're seeing the kind of stuff, and we were like, no. So unpopular, but we approved it, and things sailed on. And I'll kind of stop at that.
Thank you very much.
I think I have the next question. Describe your vision for public education in the Marysville School District. What would that look like for a student attending Marysville schools?
Thank you. That's a nice question. Yeah, because I think if I was a student, nice facilities, that's number one. That's why getting beyond the level and the bond measure is very important. But walking up to campus, a nice campus, safe campus. The culture is very important. It's a learning culture. It's an achieving culture, whether it's sports or someone. I'm a guardian of a non-citizen child that's graduated from Getcho. And, I told her, you got to get out and do things. You got to achieve. And she's been in Drummond the last 3 years and did a very good job, and looking forward to becoming an actress. I don't know how I got on that one, but the vision that I want to see, for staff, I want teachers to start knocking. They want to teach in Marysville. That's the kind of school district. Kids are clamoring to get in. Budget surpluses. Staff are happy because if I'm on the board, I want to be happy too. It's my environment as well as a school board member. So I want to be in the most happiest, fun place that I can make, and certainly for employees and staff too. Does that look? School board members like myself working from the bottom. Yep, we make decisions up in the big chairs, but actually informally, we work for all you guys. Folks out there and all those students. That's how I kind of see, hopefully, a team that I will want to serve on. And I'll stop there.
Thank you. What two things do you see as areas of improvement for us as a district? And how can we build systems or structures to overcome them? Explain how we would know when we had achieved success.
I'm gonna stay on finances and money because I believe I'd like to if I operate, I'd like to be operating in the positive on any organization. I think long-term strategies, financial strategies, I don't know if they're in place. I didn't see. But I think long-term strategies are very important. I think the district needs to start positioning itself for long-term investments. When I say that, when you're talking about real properties, where they at, strategic location, et cetera, because remember, we got to build this thing. But I think long-term financial planning is very, very, very important. I don't, I think that the connect with the community is not there. And we have to, and I want to put it because it says build system of structures. Some way, somehow, the connect has to be there. Because absence of a community, we're not going to move a doggone thing. We're not going to move anything. We're not going to see student success. So I would say, systems and not systems or processes or structures that can put us in the light of our community, engaging them, talking to them, let them know that, hey, very good school districts makes property values be very good. So I'll stop at that.
Thank you.
Oh, how do you know you've succeeded? I think budget. I think look at the budget. The budget should be going up each year. And I think finding new ways of revenues, I didn't get a chance to speak about that somewhere. I hope I do. But finding new ways of revenue should be a mark of success. A lot of ways to bring sums in. What do you call it? Anyway, if I get a chance to talk about it, I'll talk about that later. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. What motivates you to become a board member, and what do you think is expected of you as an individual board member and as a member of the board of directors?
So what motivates me is I'm a military guy. I have the can-do attitude. I think it can get done here in Marysville. And so I come with that optimism. What motivates me really, Ms. Davis, I live in this community and I feel it. I've been feeling it a long time. And it's just a burst of energy that's sitting out there that we need to reach these people. I can go name by name and start calling folks that are ready to help out. But until we get, we kind of get the, things kind of, yeah. Emily Wicks, former, you name it, ready to help us with measures. I mean, we got a lot of good alumni that we can rely upon. But that motivates me. What motivates me is looking at that budget, moving that budget forward, coming on this board, helping you guys as a team, saying, wow, where were we? Just like when I brought up that one organization, we were at 18,000, right? Now we at $500,000. That's people working, putting in the work. And so that's one thing I like to see. It motivates me because I know it can get done, and I know there's monies out there that can help. And let me just say this, Ms. Davis, as a leader, I'm retired as of Friday. I have a lot of time I can give the district, volunteer hours, and I'm willing to give up my benefits, my health and dental. Those dollars can be reallocated back into the general fund. If I'm appointed, I'm willing to forego my salaries, whatever it is, put it back into the general fund for paper, pens, et cetera. That's kind of my style, because I'm always looking to see where I can cut nicely, keep the things that we can keep, and then we got to grow that revenue. But anyway, that does excite me. I'm sorry, it does. There's a few more things if I got time. what's expected of me. The traditional board, the formal duties, work as a team with you guys to oversee the entire district. Work as a team with you guys to oversee, hire, supervise, the superintendent. Work as you guys as a team to establish the budget and approve the budget. Work with you guys as a team to set the vision and the planning. And then work with you guys as a team to go out and be deployed as ambassadors to this community so we can get these levies and things passed. But that is what motivates me, being part of this community, wanting to see it. I hear it. I'm out there in the community. I do a lot of things. And if they talk in Marysville, they talk in me. So it's a reflection. And so I want us to do better, and I want to be part of that.
Explain your understanding of what it means to be a high functioning board and give an example of what that would look like to you.
Okay, to me, I think I've served on one before. Study and read, a high functioning board. Because you study and read, you're not gonna miss a lot. And so when you study and read and study and study and study and study and anticipate and study, now staff know you're studying. You get it? Now you can, you begin to, I wouldn't say catch things, but you got that second eye. That second eye on things, but let me see, what was the question? Study and study some more. And I can't overemphasize that because you're running into teachers out here. You're running into community folks that know about Moody's rating and where the rating is. And can you have a conversation with that piece? They know about levies, so, a high functioning board is pretty knowledgeable. And I don't know who's been the longest here. I think it's Connor, but you do, right? You do earn your PhD serving on the school board. I know it's very thankless. It seems to be, but all that we put in, when you see those kids achieve, that's what we're doing this for. But that's how I see a high functioning board. I see you got to be high profile. You got to be out there, because if they don't see you, where's the school board? We're the members. So you got to be high functioning. You got to be out there. I'm retired. I'll be out there. But you do got to be out there, show face to face, talking to people, talking to merchants. That's how I see a high functioning board. High functioning doesn't necessarily mean micromanaging. Let me get that clear. High functioning means very knowledgeable. So that's kind of how I see a high functioning board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's all the questions, Clarence. I really appreciate you being here.
Okay.
Let me see. Yep. You can take that water with you if you want it.
Thank you, Connor.
And I think next steps, either Jane or Jody will reach out to you. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, board.
Yep.
And Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Clarence.
Thank you.
All right, that's gonna conclude our interviews. Next up, the board is going to enter into executive session. I'll read this little script here. The Marysville School District Board of Directors will meet in executive session